Greetings and great evening. Great evening. We are live. So, welcome to our Utopia Talk, our first Utopia Talk for 2024. So excited to be here with you and bringing you, I think, a very timely topic as we are towards the end of January. And I don't know about you, but by show of hands, who felt like just exhausted coming out of 2023? And we're what? 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks
Right.
into 2024. So today we are here, myself, Naya Powell, founder and CEO of Utopia Global Wellness and bestselling author of 30 Days Utopia Living. We are here with Leslie Stevens, licensed therapist, and also member of the Utopia Global Wellness team and co-founder of Congruence Counseling. So please give them a little hello and shout out.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me, Naya. It is always a great time when we get together and discuss mental health and wellness. Hello to everybody. So glad to join you all so we can talk about getting your year started off right. Like Naya was saying, 2023 was a roller coaster for many of us for many different reasons. So what a beautiful way that we can ease out of January and we can just provide just clarity and understanding so that we can move into our 2024 even better.
That's it. That's it. So you said a mouthful. And we are just excited to dive into this conversation. And it is so amazing to be back on live with Leslie. So we are live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and this is our first time streaming live in this manner on Instagram. So hopefully we are live on Instagram. So I'm just going to check a few settings here. Let us know where you're joining from. Please give us a shout out in the chat. It always is just nice to see friendly faces, friends, family, community. Awesome, 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 awesome. So let me look at one other thing here. Okay. So hopefully you can see us on IG as well. So anywho, we're going to get right into it. So today's topic is reset and restore in 2024 with
Flow and ease.
Yes, with flow, grace, and ease. I
Yes.
think I do a lot of research, and I know Leslie does too, on the state of well-being. And so, as the founder of Utopia Global Wellness, we really focus on bringing innovative and inclusive wellness strategies into the workplace. So that's everything from virtual classes, including Leslie's mental health and emotional wellness coaching, to yoga, to nutritional coaching, to mindfulness, to MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. So many wonderful holistic strategies. But we also offer wellness and group coaching, not just wellness coaching, but also mindful leadership coaching, group coaching, and workshops. So those are some things that we're even amplifying as we go into 2024. And this year, we also have not one, not two, but 3 global wellness retreats. So really experiencing holistic wellness around the world. So we have a little something for everybody, as I like to say. We like to be very multicultural and globally relevant because we know that some of the best, most impactful, most effective wellness practices come from around the globe. That's reflected in what we offer and in our team. And I'm really excited that this year, Leslie is going to join us for our global retreat in Belize as our mental wellness coach, as our mindset coach, and really help to bring those practices around the globe. And it's full circle because she came to the very first retreat and now it's full circle coming as a co-facilitator.
Definitely. And it's going to be an amazing time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, from a perspective of, really how we reset, recharge for 2024, how we restore, how we go into this year feeling more refreshed versus continuing on this vicious cycle of burnout. talk to us a little bit about not only why it's important that we do some reframing and resetting, but even, as we talk about like your experience, getting away, as I like to say, so we can go up.
Mhm.
Why the getting away is even important, the retreating or the staycations or the self care. We're talking about all of that. So tell us, let's kick it off with that.
Yeah, because it's a mindset shift, you know? So when we get into a routine and we're doing the same thing every day, even if we enjoy it, even if we love our job, even if we love our families, even if we love what we're doing, getting away from that routine can really help us reframe and reshift our mind. Putting yourself and your mind and your brain, your whole self, into a brand new environment can allow you to think clearly. It can allow you to generate better ideas. It can just allow you to have mental rest and respite from your day to day. So there have been many studies that talk about the necessity of having a break once a day, an hour per day, once a week, 1 day per week, once a month, one weekend per month, once a year, at least 1 week per year. There have been studies that talk about the really great health benefits that come from taking that break. And like you mentioned, it can be in the form of a staycation, it can be in the form of a vacation. But we do know that actually going somewhere else, having a different experience, having an enriching experience can really reshape and reform things for us mentally. So if you have a opportunity to join us for one of these retreats, especially the Belize, because I'm biased, but do come on and reset.
That's right. That's right. And so, I wanted to really dive into this topic because, I've been watching all of the platforms. I've been watching all of the conversations. I've been having conversations, as you have been as well, Leslie, with just different professionals, with friends, with colleagues, with family members. And one of the things is I laugh about it because I just try to find humor and levity in like even the heavy things sometimes. But seeing these memes of people running out of 2023 because they could not, like it was a horror movie, like running
Right.
out, right? And so I'm like, that is, it's kind of funny. It's kind of real. It's like, oh, so I'm not the only one that felt exhausted. And so, but at the same time, what are we running to? And I think that's
Mhm.
the question because, change requires change.
Yes,
Change
yes.
requires change. And in
I
order
love
to live a life of purpose, in order to live a life of fulfillment, in order to live a life of passion, flow, and ease, it takes intention. It is not going to just drop in your lap. It's just not going to rain down from the sky. It is going to take some intentional living, which I say utopia living is intentional living. And I want to just kind of share what is utopia living? What is the utopia living philosophy? And so the utopia living philosophy believes that true fulfillment, purpose, passion, and effectiveness emerge when all facets of our lives are that are in harmony. And you'll hear some people like kind of refute the word balance, like there's no such thing as balance. Well, there is such thing as harmony. And so that
Mhm.
means that all areas of our life are flowing in sync and there's alignment and going in the same direction. But that does not happen just by happenstance. That
Exactly.
takes a lot of self awareness. It takes discipline. It takes focus. It takes intention. It takes understanding what your values are. And I am a big believer in, actually looking and revisiting seasonally because sometimes things shift. Like you have some new exciting emerging things in your life, Leslie. Share it with
Exactly.
people.
Yeah, share with people. Oh my gosh, I'm a brand new mommy. I have a beautiful 8-week-old baby boy, or 2 months yesterday, baby boy, and my life has completely shifted, right? So finding the harmony of what it looks like to mother and to mother well, and to be intentional with that piece, but also diving back into work, and identifying what that looks like for me and having that balance of just continuing to move forward in a flow state and in an aligned state. Alignment, I think, is one of my favorite words for 2024, right? And alignment is so powerful because that means mommyhood for me, working for me, cultivating friendships, building community, being in a spiritual space, doing ministry. All of those things have to align and align well. And I know they can align well because they're supposed to, right? So being very intentional with allowing those places to move in a way that they are in full alignment and convergence. It's so absolutely necessary. So that is what I'm practicing as I preach it right now. That is what I am practicing, identifying daily. How do we find the balance? How do we find the harmony? How do we find the alignment and acceptance and all that beautiful stuff that goes with it? And to use a word that you and I are tag teaming on, the yumminess of life, the full satisfaction of
Yes.
life, right? We want that yumminess of life. So identifying how all of that can just come together and converge in a really beautiful way. That's our purpose and that's our work. So we're moving toward that space, and it's beautiful to watch it unfold.
Yeah. And I think we always have the best conversations. And I think because there is so much in alignment in terms of how we think and just view the world and life, even though our lives are different, there's a similarity in mindset. And so, as a new mom with to a gorgeous baby boy, and I'm the auntie, one of the things that we talked about was just kind of like, life and the year ahead. And one of the things this is how the word yumminess came in. You were like, yes, I'm a mom and I'm a wife, but I want to have a really fulfilling, yummy life. And I believe that you can, right? And it takes that intentionality. And, just in talks, like getting out and moving and getting about and just getting into the mommy groove and
Yeah.
embracing the fullness of life
Yes.
as a mom. Like life doesn't stop because you're a mom. It's
Right.
just maybe going to look different, but you have to be more intentional about and
Mhm.
more thoughtful about, what does it look like now when I get out? But you've been doing good, mommy. You've been
Yeah.
like making sure that you've had some girlfriend time and some brunch times. And, I'm proud of
Thank you. Thank you. But that has been my intention, right? I said, like, just because I'm a mommy now doesn't mean that I'm going to get stuck, And I think that was
right.
personally one thing that I was dreading in my younger years, right? If I may be transparent,
Mhm.
dreading in my younger years. Like, if I have a baby, if I grow a family, will I be pigeonholed into just mommy role? So I set that
Right.
intention at the beginning of the year. Like, as a mommy, I'm not going to be stuck. I'm going to allow myself to be fully aligned with all of those dynamic parts of me so that we can continue to move the ball forward, whatever that looks like, right? And
Mhm.
have the best years before me as opposed to the best years being behind me.
Mhm. Absolutely. And when you talk about that, when you say that, it probably is refreshing to a lot of other moms or moms to be or people that, still grapple with that too. Like if I become a mom, does it mean my life is over?
Mhm.
And one of the things I can say is sometimes, social media hypes things up to make them seem like more than what they are. But I also say that social media can be inspiring because I've always envisioned myself as a mother, but I would say maybe not like in the most conventional sense. Always envision being a mom, but also still traveling the world and taking my children and doing it as a family, with
Yeah.
my spouse, my children, and all these things. And so, but now with social media, you can see people doing that, right? And so you can still see people living a very full, fulfilling, yummy, dynamic life. And it doesn't mean that there's not crying and diapers and kids getting sick along the way. That's just
Right.
a part of life. Life be life it, as they say, right?
Right.
But it's
Yes.
but it's still possible. And those things happen whether you're home or traveling. So
Mhm.
why not add some yumminess to life, right? And I feel like as we go into 2024 and we reset and we restore, I want to challenge us to reset our mindset and really think about what makes your life feel fulfilling. Are
Yes.
you truly operating in your purpose? And are you even aware? Are you sure? Are you uncertain about what your purpose is? And one of the
Mhm.
things that I did when I first got into coaching, which was years ago, like over 10 years ago, was kind of created my own personal mission statement. And I thought about the things that make me come alive. And they are now woven into Utopia Global Wellness, the retreats, my coaching, and really I try to make it a part of every my everyday moments. And that is
Mhm.
empowering people to live passionately on purpose. I get a lot of fulfillment from being a thought partner and a coach. And every time I operate in that realm of executive coach or holistic lifestyle strategist, I feel so fulfilled in seeing people lean into their utopia living, their yumminess, right? And so I want to give you an opportunity to give yourself the grace in this moment to write down those things that make your spirit come alive. Write down those
Yes.
things that bring you joy in fun, in play, in travel, and in your work, right? And I want to let you just kind of or ask you, invite you to like lean into that, Leslie, because I see you nodding your head. But we have to make sure that we're starting to live a life of intention and a life
Yeah.
that we love. And that's reset, restore, and get out of just the routine and just the rut of feeling stuck in a cycle. Let's break that cycle.
Yes. Come on, right? Because it's the age-old question, right? What do I want? And it is
Right.
easier to answer what do I don't want or what don't I want than it is to answer what do I want. That question
Right.
has stumped me. That question stumps my clients because it's like you have to have an about face with like what you really want without limitations. And it's so quick to
Mhm.
say, I want this, but, or I want this and it can't happen right now. I want this yet. There's
Mhm.
always this conjunction, right? When we lean into
Mhm.
this life of yumminess and full satisfaction, we're asking folks to dream, to envision what it might be like to fully live the life that you actually want to live and that you feel in the deepest part of you that you were created and purposed to live. Right? Your
Mhm.
life is not by happenstance. Your life is ordered. Your life is beautiful. Your life is purposed already. And it's your job to step into that, you know? So it's like you are stepping up to something that was already created to be beautiful for you, right?
Mhm.
So I love the challenge and the thought behind it, about creating this life that you want, but this life that was already purposed for you to walk into that's beautiful.
Mhm. That's it. And when you said, what is the life that you dream of? I really want
Mhm.
people to think about that. A lot of people in the beginning of the year, they do vision boards, and I have numerous, but I do have two that are in my room and that I've created over the years. And one's in one corner that I can see when I wake up. And then one is on the side of my bed that I also see when I wake up. And it's also above where have my declarations, my daily declarations. And so
Yes.
I have to speak life. We have to speak life into the life that we desire to live. And
Come
I want to
on.
encourage you to write down your dreams, write down what you envision for your life. What does that look like holistically? What does that look like mentally? You know, I'm living and I'm walking in a life of peace, not stress.
Mhm.
I'm living in a life of abundance, not scarcity.
Mhm.
I'm living in a life of joy and peace and harmony, not strife and discontentment.
Yes.
Whatever that is for you, my family is healthy and blessed and well. I'm operating in the fullness of my purpose and loving the work that I'm doing while empowering and inspiring others. What is that for you? And so as you can see, these are not my specific declarations, but I'm accustomed to speaking life into my life. And so I
Yes.
want you all to start speaking life into your life. And that's mentally, that's spiritually, that's emotionally. Let's kind of reroute, reset, and restore our mindset as we go
Yes.
into this year. Because again, change requires change. If you don't want 2024 to have you beat down, burned out, and exhausted, it's going to require some changes. And those changes might be a heavy lift because you know what? Change is usually not comfortable. It's doing some things differently, it's making some different choices, it's being intentional about how we start our day, how we spend our time, what we're taking in, who we're surrounding ourselves with. It's getting out of our comfort zone. It's positioning ourselves in new places and spaces that can inspire us and ignite the passions in us. It's finding time to maybe get away from scrolling for hours on your phone and maybe delving into a podcast that's going to help reignite you and your passions. Maybe it's volunteering on the weekend, or maybe it's doing something that's a hobby, getting involved in a salsa class, a yoga class, a running group, a baking group, a cooking class, a book club. What floats your boat?
Right.
Close your
Right.
book.
And making time for that, right? Making
Yeah.
time for that. So often we shut it out, we shut it down even before the idea has a chance to blossom into anything. We shut it down so quickly, right? Because of the limitations. But what we're talking about now with this mindset shift is a belief system shift. Right, challenging those faulty belief systems that keep us stuck, right, and moving into a belief system that says I am limitless. There are no limitations. I can and I have capacity, and there's grace for it, right? I want this. Can I? There's grace for it. I want to do this. Can I? There's grace for it, right? So believing
Yeah.
in this limitless capacity and then watch it unfold. We have to show up to do the work, right? We have to show up and do the work, but there's a grace and a flow and an ease and a rest about this work if we tap into it and allow it to be so.
Yes, yes. And I love that you pulled grace in, right? The grace, the flow, the ease. I want to I'm going to be throwing out coaching questions
Yeah, yeah,
throughout. And
love
I
it.
invite you all to, yeah, I invite you all to grab your journal. If you haven't, light your candle, grab your tea, elevate your utopia. But that journal is important because I want you to write down, what is the life that you dream of?
Hmm.
What brings you what brings you joy? Because really our joy is often connected to our passions. Our gift is connected to our purpose. And the reason why I wrote 30 Days to Utopia Living in 2019, the same year that we launched the Belize retreat. In 2019, I wrote this book, and you've heard me talk about it. It does include, powerful coaching questions and utopian lifestyle strategies, and it's a daily coaching devotional, so you can roadmap your own self-care toolkit. And the reason I wrote this book is because I have, like all of us, right? We've been through challenging times in life. And we really need to know what helps us to reignite, our energy, our spirit, all
Yes.
the things. And what connects us to our purpose and our passion. And how do we do more of that? And Leslie, you kind of said like we have to find time. And there is time. If you think about how many hours you might spend on the phone
Listen.
with whether it's your family or girlfriends or whoever, if you think about how much time you're scrolling, screen time, how much time you're watching TV, not to say don't do any of it, but we need to reallocate time to what is going to fuel our purpose and our passion. And
Mhm.
I believe fundamentally that we were all created for a unique and divine purpose and imprint to make on this world. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be an entrepreneur, because let me tell you, it's hard. But it does mean that you can find your purpose in the workplace, in the marketplace. When I was working for I'll give Red Hat as an example. When I was working for Red Hat, I was presented with a wonderful opportunity to lead mindfulness weekly. And sometimes I would say, why are you doing this? You are stressed out. You have such a heavy workload. Tech is fast paced. You have all of these different, hiring managers you partner with. You have 35 different recs. Girlfriend, you don't have time for this. And then I had to say, you know what? This brings me joy. I absolutely love this. And so I am going to have a mindset shift, a paradigm shift about, I'm not going to complain about the part of this whole holistic organization that gives me space to
Mhm.
operate in an area of passion, purpose, gifts. I'm going to make time for that.
Yes.
And our gifts will make room for us. Go ahead,
Yes.
Leslie.
Yes, I often talk about with my clients the capacity pie, right? So we go through like what percentage goes where in their day or in their week or in their life, right? And I challenge them like, what might it be like to get rid of this thing? It's a good thing, but it's not the purposed thing for this season. And it's hard because many times we want to hold on to something because, people expect us to do it, or we've been doing it for so long, or it did serve us and we haven't quite gotten the memo that it's no longer serving us. So when we talk about reallocating that time, it's also saying no to things that we said yes to a season or two ago that's benefiting somebody else more than it's benefiting us, or it may not be benefiting anybody right now, really, just kind of taking up space in the capacity pie. And that's when we get to the challenge of the work. What might it be like to really let some things go if someone else expects it of you, if it was a previous expectation for yourself, even though it's not in alignment with where you are for this season?
That's right. And when you talk about the capacity pie, I mean, I think about that in terms of you being a mom.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it brings me so much joy. Brings me so much joy to see Leslie being a mom. Like when you have had friends for years and you see their life just evolve, and you're like, you're a full mom. This is a whole gorgeous baby that you and your husband had. You produced a whole human being. So it's just it's phenomenal, right? And then it's just like, so the capacity, right? Like, the capacity, what did you call it? The capacity pie?
The capacity pie. Mm-hmm.
Capacity pie shifts. And it doesn't mean that, there aren't still yummy parts of the pie, but the capacity pie does shift, and different pieces of the pie become bigger or smaller based on capacity, which I also say aligns with your values. And so I want to encourage each and every one of you to write down your 4 to 5 values, and not only write them down. What do you value? What really matters to you? After you write them, just write them. Don't have to overthink. Just write what you value. Write it down. Okay? After you've had a chance to write them down, at least 4 or 5 things, then think about them. And I want you to go and order them from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 in priority. And so for me, what that looks like is I call it the 5S. So it's my faith, it's my family or family, because I say friends are the family that we choose. And especially many of us as, working professionals have moved away from home. Michelle Obama talks about that. Like, our village and community looks very different than it did, maybe when our parents were growing up, or maybe for some of us when we were growing up. A lot of us have moved far away from home. So we have our biological family, and then we have our village, our community. So our family or family. And then, then it starts to be where those are first, and then it starts to be my field. I consider my work my field, right? And then there's finances, there's physical well-being or fitness, but gotta have fun. So I have to, the way I'm going to be able to do all the stuff that I do is I have to have a fun factor. That is important. So people will say, you have a full plate, you have a full schedule, and I do. But I'm going to tell you what, Leslie can tell you this. Anybody knows me knows that some people say, you know what, you are one of the most family-oriented people that I know. And I don't even live in close proximity to my family. But it's important for me to show up, even running businesses. It's important for me to show up. And the reason why I think, a decent job of showing up for my family is because I have made it clear what my values are, and I've made it clear where they rank. And so this way, whenever I have significant people in my life, I can find, as Leslie talked about the capacity pie, a way to make sure that they fit in and that they matter, because I have determined that that is a huge part of my value system. And that fuels my purpose, my passion, and ignites me to live a life that feels like utopia living. And so sometimes we can over index, and we're so about our work, we're so about these goals, we're so about these deadlines, we're so about these deliverables, we're so about trying to keep up with the Joneses and look good on social and have something to brag about, that we have burned ourselves into the ground. And I think that is so much of what we have experienced in 2023. Maybe it's a mindset of just being a little fear-based, because there have been so many changes in the world. We've gone through the pandemic, we went through grief, we went through loss, we went through a just tumultuous economy. We're going through political changes. We've gone through so much that I think that the last year to 18 months to 24 months, we have been in this like grind mode, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And that's where I want to say, let's lean into grace, because that rat race, that unrelentless pursuit will kill us because stress does kill us.
Agreed.
So what? Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And for me, Naya, this quest for rest, right, and restoration, it's personal. In 2020, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I've been trying to figure out how to rest effectively ever since. And how to show up in ways that are fulfilling and that are satisfying career wise, but that also honor who I am as an individual, as a human, as a being, right? We talk about this being versus doing. Are you a human doing? Are you a human being? And I
right.
was, and many people are human doings. We're so
Mm,
consumed with the doing of it all that we're fearful of the being, or we were never given permission for the being,
mm,
and the
mm,
being is just this sort of thing that we cast to the side and we don't acknowledge. And then comes the
mm,
stress, and then comes the disease, and then comes the breakdown of mind, body, soul, spirit, etc., etc. So yes, I
mm,
am in total agreement with you. And I love your 5 F's and those tenets, right? Because it really helps to frame and put things into perspective, right? That
mm,
family are just as valuable as finances,
mm,
and showing up for community is just as valuable as being able to advance yourself in a certain area, right? So it's so important for us to set ourselves according to the truest purpose of our heart, right? And evaluate, work with a coach, work with a therapist, figure out what that thing is,
mm.
figure out what your truest self, your truest highest self is, and work toward that. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Your truest, highest self and work for. And I want to go back to grace, right?
Mhm.
Because we're not going to have enough pieces in our capacity pie every day, every time to be 100% present for everything, even those things that we value. So I want you all to really think about as you go into 2024, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace to flow in ease. Be
Speak on it.
anchored. Be
Yeah.
anchored in your values. Be anchored in your purpose. Be anchored in your gifts. And one of the things that I do, not to just plug, but I do this. Like I do my 30 Days to Utopia Living journal. So we produced a journal in 2023 to be intentional about the day. So I write what I'm grateful for. There are not enough lines. I always run over. I'll see if I can find a page like this morning. I'm like, it's just all over the place. Sometimes I'm way up here, right? But I write what I'm grateful for, and then I write the intention that I'm setting. And I also write how I'm going to pour into myself today. That's that self-care. And then I
Mhm.
write, what am I releasing today? So most days I'm releasing stress, fear, and anxiety because
Yes.
it's always trying to get us. That's the thing that's a pursuer if you ain't never seen one. That listen, the stress, fear, and anxiety and worry, oh, it's coming for you.
Listen,
Like it's bringing you the
listen.
roses. It's trying to, it is
It's
always trying to
wooing you,
get us.
huh? It is wooing you.
It's always wooing, right? So most days I write that down because there's always something. I don't know about y'all, but there is always something that could easily
Listen,
stress me out every day.
listen,
And
every day.
so it is a intentional mindset shift that I'm going to operate in faith and not fear. And I
Mhm.
am not going to be consumed with stress, anxiety, and worry because it's not going to serve me. It's actually
Yes.
going to stifle me. It will make
Mhm.
me stuck. It will rob my creativity. It will hijack. So let me tell you what stress does. And Leslie, I want you to lean in from a clinical perspective. But I can
Mhm.
tell you, studies show, and this is why I love the practice of mindfulness, taking in some cleansing breaths that instantly brings in that calms.
Mhm.
It elevates the serotonin levels. What happens is it also releases and reduces our blood pressure,
Yeah.
things that, especially as Black women, we die of disproportionately. Hypertension, heart disease.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we're so worked up and we don't even know it. We're not self aware. And
That's right.
we're suffering with migraines. We're holding our breath. Where the more you're holding your breath, I guarantee you your anxiety levels are going through the roof. Your cortisol
Absolutely.
levels are flooding your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And when they're flooding your body is attacking itself, your immune system. So this is why I'm so passionate about holistic wellness practices, because if we can learn how to regulate our stress levels, regulate our cortisol levels, boost our immune system, calm our nervous system, then we don't even have to be on as
Mhm.
many medications, prescriptions. If we can get outside and go for a short walk and talk and get in some sunshine and fresh air, if we can be honest about what we're going through as people and call a friend, if we can make sure that we're inspiring our thoughts with life-giving content, whether it's podcast or our favorite song or whatever that is, or journaling to release the worry from our mind, we can literally live a life of health,
Mhm.
joy, peace, flow, grace,
Mhm.
and ease. But we have to give ourselves the grace to be human, to say, I didn't get it right today, and that's okay. I'll work on it tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to call back my loved one. That's okay. I'll send them a text and I'll call them, tomorrow or this weekend. I didn't meet that deadline, that pressure that I put on myself, but that's okay because I'm a human being and not a human doing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I want you to lean into this because you know even better than me, like what this does to us, right?
Yeah. I mean, you said it. You hit the nail on the head. With the cortisol and the adrenaline and the holding your breath. I am saying, yes, I'm in agreement with everything you just said because it's true, right? We rob ourselves of life when we allow cortisol, when we allow adrenaline, and we don't even know that we're allowing it. Let me say that because all of this is not conscious. Most of this is subconscious. Most of this is because it's been programmed by something that happened to us years and years ago. And now we're just living out of the triggers of that, right? So when you talk about relinquishing the fear, right, we also have to engage a degree of trust for ourselves, self-trust, trust for one another, right? So you, like, for example, you were talking about a deadline, right? If I am hyper fearful because I'm not going to meet this deadline, I'm fearful because of my bosses. I'm fearful because someone won't approve of me. I'm fearful because I think that I'm going to lose my job. I'm fearful because I don't want to be reprimanded, right? I don't trust. I don't trust myself. I don't trust the people that I work for. I don't trust that finances will be provided for. I don't trust in my higher power. When I'm letting that fear sort of go out of control, it's because I don't trust the community that I have set up or that has been set up around me, right? So when we talk about getting out of fear, we have to get into that space of grace and trust and belief that I'm held, I'm anchored, I'm okay. Even if I make this mistake, even if I'm not perfect, even if I mess up, even if the deadline does pass me by, I trust that there's another opportunity, And I think a lot of us, we don't trust because of things that have happened to us, trauma, drama, adverse childhood experiences. We don't trust. So it's important to lean into grace. Part of that is trust.
That's right. That's right. And I think when we look over our life, right, that's what helps me to be anchored in trust that it's going to
Mhm.
work out, in
Yes.
faith, it's going to work out. Because when I look over my life, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't always work out in the time that I thought or exactly how I thought, but it has
But it
always worked out.
has. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And for most of us, it does work out. And even with the worst case scenario, I'll go through with my clients. We used to have this buzz question in therapy, like, what's the worst that could happen? And, you talk it through and it's like, at the end, that probably won't happen. Life is lifing differently these days. So there have been several times that I've sat in session with someone and we talked about what's the worst that could happen. And then that worst actually happened. But
Mhm.
guess what? They've still survived. On the other side of it, they have survived. They have moved into places of thriving. They used whatever that worst case scenario was to say, hey, I was able to overcome this. And I think that's powerful, So even
Yep.
on that worst case scenario that we get set back 10 steps and we have to sort of
Mhm.
crawl our way out and start all over again, you can begin again and you can still thrive and you can do more than survive.
Yeah, you can be more than you can do more than survive. You can certainly, and I'm a big advocate of thriving, right? And the way I like to view life is I've shared before, I don't really use the word failure. That's not in my vocabulary. And the reason why it's not in my vocabulary is because even when things don't go, again, according to plan, my plan, according to the time frame or the outcome, I'm a life learner. So I'm
Mhm.
always learning. And I really petition that we're all learning. We learned that what we thought was going to happen didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen. You learn that. You
Right.
learn what did not yield maybe the outcome or the response. And if we want to become better instead of bitter, we really take a moment to inventory the experience and say, what going forward, what would I do differently next time?
Mhm.
Or maybe I realized from going through that experience that maybe I wouldn't have done anything different the next time. I learned that that is not for me. I realized
Right.
at the end of the day, that path I was going down and I was charting down because, maybe external forces or maybe I got caught up. I realized that I don't even really want that. And sometimes, that happens too, right? But I believe that we can choose to become, better, wiser, stronger. We don't have to become bitter. And it is truly a choice.
Yeah.
And if we're still here, if we're still alive, if we're still, there's so much that we can gain, and we can also share with others on their journey. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to hear from somebody that's never been through anything.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
am
Absolutely.
inspired by people that have gone through challenges, they've persevered, they're a demonstration of resilience and will. Those are the people that I am inspired by. Those are the people that I want to glean from and learn from because, as you said, life be life, and it's not always easy. So we
Mhm.
need to really understand that what does that look like? When whether it is you weather the storm of getting laid off, fired, divorce, loss, grief, financial challenge. And as a founder, I do a lot in the corporate wellness space, but I also do a lot in the founder wellness space. And so much of entrepreneurs and for founders, so much of their identity is attached to their company, their
Mhm.
startup, their organization. And what I like to say is, hey, if you have started a company, you have literally taken something that was a concept, like probably something you saw as an opportunity, a problem that needed a solution, and it started as a thought, an idea, and you literally made that thing a reality. And you did something that most people will never do. And so there's so much brilliance and there's so much to be proud of that to me, it doesn't matter how it ends up. That's already winning.
Right.
To take
Right.
something as a thought and a concept and to make it a reality. And then I like to just kind of give us a reality check that even the biggest companies out here, global leaders, go through mergers, acquisitions, bankruptcies, financial challenges,
Certainly.
layoffs, all the things.
Certainly.
So the startup founders, what would make you think you're immune to the economy and the shifts of the economy? We're not immune and we're more vulnerable.
Mhm.
So celebrate your wins. Always celebrate your wins and remember your why. And however it ends up, you still won because you created something literally out of a vision. And
Yes.
so I want to say that for the founders, but I also want to say that for everybody in life because every day we are, I would say, elevating through our experience of life. And we're learning so much that truly it can make us more empathetic, more compassionate, a better leader, a more mindful leader, a more inclusive leader, help us to create a culture of inclusion, especially when we choose to operate in a spirit of vulnerability. None
Mhm.
of us get it right all the time.
Mhm.
And so we can create an environment of vulnerability when we say and share some of our journey. And so, I'll pause there because I would love to hear kind of your thoughts there, Leslie.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And as you were talking about that, it somewhere that we oftentimes get stuck is this place of shoulds, right? The not so great thing happens. The thing happens that we do not want to have happen. And instead of moving in that place of, oh, okay, I learned from it, I can move from it, we say, oh, but I should have, and it should have gone this way. And yes, I'm going to do better, but I also need to make sure that it never happens like that again. So we can move in that direction, but also get our gears stuck even when trying to pivot out of that mindset. So my encouragement, along with everything that you're saying, is every day, several times a day, probably, you're going to have to make that intentional choice to say, and I'm moving forward, and I'm moving forward, and we're going to try it differently. And we're going to try it another way. And we're still moving forward, because the brain will get stuck in that space because the brain is assessing for threat. The brain is like, oh, well, the quote, the not so good thing happened, or the quote, bad thing happened. And I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. The brain says, I wish to protect you. And so then it gets stuck right there. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't take a risk. Don't take a risk. So we have to be able to have that mindset shift to come over that and say, I still choose to take the risk. I still choose to move forward. I still choose to live another day. I still choose.
That's it. I choose. And what I hear in so much of that is the grace. It's the grace. It's giving yourselves grace.
Yep.
I think that could be such a power word for 2024. Give yourself grace to flow and ease. Yes, set an intention every day. Think about how you're going to pour into yourself every day. Think about your desired outcomes every day.
Every day.
But if it doesn't turn out exactly that way, it's still okay.
And along with that too, might I add, give other people grace, right? Sometimes it's easier for us to give other people grace than give ourselves grace. And sometimes it's easier for us to give ourselves grace when we're on a quest or a journey and we don't have grace for others. So as we're giving ourselves grace, let's be cognizant that our friends, brothers, sisters, family members, they need grace too. So let's do grace together. And that's when we get into real relationship work, right? Let's do grace together.
You're so good at that too. You're such an inspiration and role model in that way. You are so great.
I have lessons. I have many lessons. Because there are so many times that I did not give grace, right? And it doesn't serve the relationship. It doesn't make it better for anybody. So, the lesson learned is, like, while we're working to give ourselves grace, give others grace.
Yeah. You shared, Leslie, earlier in the conversation that in, I don't know if it was 2018 or 2019 that you were diagnosed with a, did you say autoimmune?
Autoimmune disease in 2020.
Let me make sure I get it right. And one of the things that I have learned from you as you've shared about that journey is that you realize that some of that was coming from internalizing stress, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I ask you how you're doing and how you're doing with certain things that are stressful kind of things, you were like, I don't have the energy to be stressed about it. And I love that because you learned how to release, and you realized that you had to release for the sake of your livelihood. Absolutely. And the way it presented for you was very clear physically at a young age. And you realize for your life, but I want people to know that are hearing this, that it's not just Leslie's life, it's all of our lives. It just sometimes takes longer. And I would dare to say it was a blessing that it presented early in life. So she could get hold of it early versus those that will end up having a stroke a little later, or hypertension or a heart attack or something that can take us out because we didn't really learn how to pivot and how we are managing the stresses of life. And so I know that, like, when it comes to how to reset and restore, I would love to hear just kind of some of the things that you believe we need to embrace in terms of ways that we can reset and restore with grace, flow, and ease in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's all about going inward. There's been such a focus on the outward, right? What everyone else
Mhm,
is doing, like you mentioned, keeping up with the Joneses, getting into comparison traps, right? Trying to, climb the ladder, whatever ladder we're trying to climb. And we're trying to find balance outside of ourselves, but it really starts
mhm,
as an inside job, right? And then it
mhm,
radiates outward. So the first thing we want
mhm,
to do is get inspired, right? Use the
mhm,
world around you for inspiration. Again, not comparing, but what sparks you, what lights your soul, what gives you that flicker, what gives you that glimmer of light that says, oh, this is nice. Let me try this. Let me get creative with that. So put yourself in places that are inspiring for you, right? And once you get inspired, you want to envision. Oh my gosh, Naya, because you and I have talked about it. Like there is so much power in the vision and having the idea and having the creative genius and having that moment of that aha just brewing, and you see yourself and you're engulfed and you're engaged, number three, and you're engaged in that vision, right? And it's yummy, right? To see
yeah,
yourself in that limitless vision and you're engaged, and then you begin to embody it. You begin to feel it. You say to yourself, what would it feel like if I were living this? What would it feel like if I were in Belize on the beach, getting a spa treatment, doing a mental wellness exercise? What might
mm,
that feel like in my
mm,
body, in
mm,
my spirit? What might it
mm,
feel like for me to experience the ocean air, for me to breathe in the fresh, clean sea air, to hear
yes.
the seagulls, put that sand under my feet, to have on my hottest pink, and to just engage in fellowship
Mhm,
and healing with other women. How can I embody that, right? So when we get
yeah,
the when we envision it and when we engage it and when we embody it, we begin to seek those opportunities where we can really immerse ourselves in that activity or in that intention and in that goal, right? And after we
mhm.
embody it, we take that action, we begin to get those action steps going, and we begin to live that life, and we begin to enjoy it. We begin to have that yumminess, that fulfillment, that fun factor that you were talking about. We begin to enjoy what we're actually doing, and before you know it, we are influencing and inspiring other people in a really authentic way, right?
Mm,
So that was my quick bit of it, right? You want to get engaged and immersed with going inward, and once you're inward, it can flow outward, but you got a lot of in work to do first before it can begin to flow outward. And I think many of us are doing the outwork first. Let me put on my makeup. Let me make sure the outward is good. Let me put on the facade. Let me make sure the outward looks good. But we're dying on the inside daily. So that's why we have to
mhm.
do the inner work first, and then the outward flows from that.
And we're so good at that, right? We're so good at putting on the clothes, the hair, the labels, the all the things
Certainly.
externally. And yet on the inside, we're empty. On the
Mhm.
inside, we're, fighting ourselves. On the inside, we're, self-condemning and self-critiquing. And therefore we're doing that to others. I always say, at the end of the day, this is the litmus test. No one is walking around feeling good and joyful and content and happy and being nasty to people.
That's
Okay?
right.
So it has to be in you to come out of you.
Come on,
So
sis.
there's no way that I'm feeling like I am living my utopia and then I'm gonna go and curse someone out or just be nasty or criticizing or judging or critiquing and not being able to give any grace. So I want us to think about that for ourselves. And then when we are gathering with others, I want us to really pay attention to, are we, and I say this a lot, are we elevating the environment? Are we elevating the atmosphere? Or are we subtracting and dividing? And so, whether it is gossiping, whether it is, not being supportive, whether it is, just being critical, is overly judgmental, I want us to start looking at those behaviors and understanding whether they're coming from inside of us or the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. Those behaviors are evidence of, I would say, kind of a mindset that is brewing in a level of toxicity and negativity. If it
Mm,
it cannot come out of is not in you. And I think it's easy to bandwagon. It's easy to engage in these kind of activities, but I want us to really start to think about, do we need to do some cleaning up? Do we need
Mhm.
to do some internal cleanup? And do we need to do some cleanup with the people that we're around, surrounding ourselves with, or even the content that we're taking in, in our free time? Because that has a impact. And I think about, there's so much bad behavior going on in the world, and we're digesting it, we're eating
Mhm.
it. And everything that people put on our plate, we don't have to eat, you all.
Oh, that's so
We don't
good.
have to,
Say it
we
again
can,
for the back.
everything we put on our plate, we do not have to eat it, you know? So I'm also often inspired by Leslie because she has a very clean diet, and she cooks like every her meals and like all of this. And I do some cooking, but not like Leslie, right? But she's not going to just eat anything. That also is born out of her realizing that her body can't take her eating just anything. And can any of our bodies really take us eating just anything? After a while, it catches up with all of us, and it
Right.
shows up in ugly ways in all of us, whether it is weight gain, whether it is acne, whether it is, gut health issues, which is pervasive throughout this country. It shows up for all of us. So I just want us to be thinking like about what we are taking in, what we are putting out.
Mhm. Mhm. That's so real and so true, right? And it does catch up with us, right? We never know the day nor the hour that it will catch up with us. But something that you mentioned, simply acne. Acne means that some sort of toxin has permeated your gut lining, and now it's manifesting itself on your skin. So
Mm.
that's a very simple thing that all of us have gotten, all of us get from time to time, but that's what it means. Some toxin has entered your bloodstream, and now it's manifested itself on your skin.
Right. It looks like I might be a little frozen.
Yeah,
Looks
it's
like we
frozen.
might be,
Am I frozen also?
yeah. We're a little frozen.
We're
So,
frozen.
but we're going to keep the conversation going. Hopefully, it will unfreeze us in a moment. I'm hopeful. And I wish there was something, I don't want to mess this up. So, anywho, maybe I'll try to refresh. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Nothing's happening. All right. So, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share a few key points to resetting and restoring in 2024 with grace, flow, and ease. Hold on one second. I don't like that we're still frozen, so I'm just going to see if I can try a few things. All right. Seems like it's still frozen. So we can start to unpack our purpose.
I
We
like
can
that.
also start to pursue our passion for more personal and professional fulfillment.
Hmm. Seems like Naya cut out. We're going to wait another minute and she will pop back soon, I am sure. This is a moment for all of us to exercise grace. We are exercising grace for ourselves and exercising grace for the technological systems that we are using. This is an opportunity for us to do so with flow, grace, and ease. She should be popping back any moment. Absolutely. So, as Naya is working to get back, we'll just continue a little more with our chat on how to come into 2024 with flow, grace, and ease. So we also want to make sure that when we are intentioned, right? One of the things that Naya mentioned was journaling. Journaling is an impeccable way for us to get our thoughts up and out, to really be conscious and cognizant of what we're thinking about. When we're talking about mindset shifting and belief system shifting, we need to know what we're thinking about constantly. We need to know what's top of mind constantly. We need to provide space to unpack some of that stuff that might be rolling around in our brains subconsciously. So it's going to be really, really important that we use what she mentioned. She's got her Utopia journals, and just grab your journal and make sure you make some intentional space consistently, daily, nightly, in the morning, to just unpack some of what you're thinking and what you're feeling, because then that can really help you see your patterns. And when you're able to identify your patterns, you can then move forward to shift some of those patterns. Many of us have been walking around with faulty mindsets, faulty belief systems, believing and thinking things that aren't in alignment with who we actually are and where we're actually going in life. And that can keep us stuck, you know? So we want to make sure that we are intentioned with getting that stuff up and out. And journaling is an excellent way to do that. So I would love for you to maybe make an intention for yourself that if you haven't already been journaling, let 2024 be the year that you embark on a journaling journey for yourself to get your own thoughts up and out. You know, it can be really, really clarifying for you to see what you've been thinking about, to see what you've been feeling, and to see sort of how your life has been patterned based on those things. Really, really clarifying. So I want to encourage you all to do that also. It looked like Naya was coming back for a minute, but if she's not, we will continue with some tools and tips.
Hear me? Do you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So this is where we got to give ourselves grace and ease. So my computer, I don't know, just decided to do a little wonky thing, and now it doesn't want to show my camera. So anywho, oh right. So it's like here we are. But
grace and ease, flow, grace and ease, right?
Grace.
As one of my friends says, we are live in 3D living color, right?
That's it. That's it. So I'm not sure where I left off. So what I'm going to do is just share a few key points to recap. So in order to really flow in that grace, flow, and ease in 2024, I want us to focus on unpacking our purpose, pursuing our passions for personal and professional fulfillment, embracing a growth mindset, prioritizing self-care in our daily routine, flowing in life's rhythms. You know, this year might be very different than last year. So readjusting and reslicing the capacity pie, as Leslie talks about. Like that. And then also thinking about, you know, sometimes getting away, pressing pause, getting away so we can go up. And so that leads me to our 3 super yummy global wellness retreats for 2024. So we are going to actually be elevating, escaping, enriching, and empowering in Bali. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go far out and bring it forward. Bali in September, Belize in July, and Costa Rica in May. So I'm going to do, what I want to do is see if I can just kind of really quickly show you all a little highlight and overview. Do you see my screen okay? It looks like you can. Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm going to take you all. I want you, put a link in the chat. I want you to visit Utopia Living Retreats. These are our global wellness retreats, and you can see each of the tabs here: Costa Rica, Belize, and Bali. You can even scroll down on the homepage. You can watch our Bali highlight video from this past September. You can scroll down. You can even see our West Africa retreats highlight video. And really our retreats are really designed so you can experience holistic well-being by exploring the world. These retreats in particular are retreats for women, women leaders, founders, CEOs. I believe that all women are CEOs of their life in their household and leaders in various ways. We are going to be going first to Costa Rica, and that's going to be May 1st through the 5th. And so the theme of this retreat is escape, refresh, and recharge. It's all inclusive, and it's going to include amazing excursions, you know, the hot springs, the waterfalls, the volcanoes. In addition to that, all meals are included. This is our first all inclusive, our morning mindfulness, our gratitude and journal reflection time, and then also time for our leadership coaching, our wellness coaching, our empowerment circles, social impact activities, and so forth. You can easily register for our retreats at the bottom of each page. You would just click the registration link, and it's a simple form so we can get to know you. And at the end of that form, there is a Calendly link. Can you see my screen of the form at this time?
I
Yes or
cannot see
no?
the form. I see the bottom of the
Okay.
screen.
Okay, so you can click that. It's a simple form, and at the bottom is also a link to schedule a retreat intake call. Belize is next up, and this is where Leslie will be our co-facilitator. This is theme of this retreat is enrich, revitalize, and restore. July 1st through the 6th, 6 days, 5 nights, daily breakfast, welcome dinner, a finale dinner. We're going to go snorkeling in the second largest barrier reef in the world. If you want to be adventurous and get in there with the nurse sharks, you can. If you don't want to, you can chill on the boat. But it's going to be an amazing time. We'll visit Secret Beach. We'll experience the Garifuna people, descendants of West Africa, their drumming and dance circle. It'll be lobster season. We'll also, again, have different executive leadership coaching sessions for each and every retreat. And we'll also have holistic wellness sessions creating and elevating our utopia. So read more there. And then lastly, I would call this kind of our finale flagship retreat. Bali is incredible. All of these places are incredible. This is in September, and this is going to be 8 days and 77 nights in beautiful Bali, where we will elevate, empower, and soar. And so, five-star resorts here, four-star resorts on the others. You can actually check out our resorts page for each of them. And we're having a retreat Q&A call this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. You can find that detail as well. So our resorts are incredible. So you don't want to miss these retreats, and you do have to focus on refreshing and restoring with us. And you can actually go right here and join our next Q&A call, which is Saturday. You can register right here. So everything is very convenient, and we hope to hear from you, and we hope that you will journey with us. So I will stop sharing, and we'll get ready to close it out. So any closing thoughts on your end, Leslie?
I would just encourage everyone to take space, take pause for yourself. I think reset and restoration looks different for everybody. But if you give yourself the grace that you need to take space, to take inventory, to do something a little different, to lean into trust, to lean into doing the inner work, then the results will come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so again, I want to encourage you to lean into your purpose, lean into what brings you joy, what makes your spirit come alive. That is in alignment with your purpose. And whether it is at the workplace, in entrepreneurship, or in your community, find ways to factor in more of what drives you, what's life-giving, what's bringing you joy and fulfillment. And that is purpose-driven living. That is utopia living. And give yourself a little grace, give others a little grace, and let's move into 2024, restored. So thank you for joining us all. We hope to see you again, and more to come with coaching and counseling from Naya and Leslie. So more to come in terms of ongoing lives and podcasts starting back up in February. Thank you all so much and make it a Utopia living evening.